What's up, everybody? Welcome to Body Lock. It's your man, Ant Walker here, joined by Dr. Patrick Auger, CPA, CEO, DNA, PIMP himself. Pat, how are you doing today, my man?
Doing pretty good. Not a doctor yet, but some people do call me that. So
By this time next week. So we're just adding those initials on your name. So, but yeah, we definitely do. Despite the fact there's so many funny things that we want to say to one another, we do have to talk about something relatively serious here. But it does have a bit of comedy sprinkled in there, depending on how you're looking at it. One championship, back to their old games. It looks like now they put out a statement in the past several days, saying that they have now acquired $70 million worth of new investor capital. This included some from old investors, and I guess they added on a little bit more from other sources. But the idea was that they're bragging about their so-called war chest, but at the same time, they announced that they are cutting 20% of their staff. There also have been conflicting reports about that 20%. Josh Gross, formerly of The Athletic, said that, according to his sources, it was somewhere between 50 and 60% of the staff. So, Pat, as our resident business expert, can you shed some light on just what could be going on here?
Yeah, definitely. So basically, this happened once before when John Nash from Bloody Elbow took a look at one's required filings with the government of Singapore. Think of it kind of like our tax filings for corporations. Basically, one has to meet regulatory standards, file their financials. And the last time that they did this, John Nash revealed that one had suffered a loss, that there were some issues, and they immediately put out a statement saying, "Oh, we're in good standing, it's all good," and kind of had like a press release that glossed over that. Anton Tabuena, I think that's how you say the name. If not, don't judge me too harshly. The managing editor at Bloody Elbow actually called this right after Nash's piece came out this time over the 2018 filings, where we saw that their losses skyrocketed to an accumulated around 82 million Singaporean dollars. So it makes it around 126 million total over the 2 years that Nash covered, 2017 and 2018. He said that, I bet one championship releases something in the next couple of days talking about how good they are financially, things of that nature. Lo and behold, a couple of days later, here comes this press release. Now, they're saying $70 million US, it looks like. So that's actually, if that's true, that's, big in terms of, one, it's just incredibly good to get that type of fundraising in a round from private investors. And they do have big names that we do know of, such as Sequoia, some bigger names in the space. It's rumored that the new company that's come in, not confirmed, but it's rumored that is Vulcan, which is Paul Allen, the Microsoft co-founder, late Microsoft co-founder who's passed away now. His investment firm would line up with the fact that Vulcan Group did, at the end of 2019, invest around $100 million in different Singapore entities. So that could be true. Don't know for sure yet. But either way, it's a big move for them. But they're trying to frame this in it's a prudent discussion. It's a prudent way to, say, yes, we laid off people, but also we have a 9-figure war chest, I believe is what Chatri said. Chatri Sit-Yadong, one CEO. That's great and all, but you never want to announce the fact that you're doing layoffs and make it sound like a good thing. I've never heard of a company doing this, especially when you look at the actual financials themselves. You have a lot of these things that are barter transactions that are kind of services traded and then are put on the books as money. So it's a whole kind of convoluted mess. When I talked to John Nash on the Fight Business podcast not too long ago, he was confounded by them as well. He'd never seen them either. So from the outside looking in, it certainly doesn't make a lot of sense. It seems like one is kind of like scrambling to release some good PR out there, whether that's to calm investors that are already there, or whether that's to, just, coincidental timing. I don't know. But from my perspective, definitely looks like a PR move, and definitely looks like they're kind of scrambling to keep what investors they have happy.
I think another interesting wrinkle to this just developed earlier today, if I'm not mistaken, on that. Now they have called into question the validity of Bloody Elbow's reporting, which is a very, very interesting development simply because the reporting was based on one championship's own filings to the government. So, I mean, I don't, my logical brain says that makes absolutely no sense. But Pat, is there some sort of rational business explanation that you can attribute to that?
Yeah, it's called scrambling to put out the fire marketing. It's called PR, right? The spin. You want to talk about spinning? That's what it is. If you're exactly right. It's that article was based on their own filings that anyone right now can go and obtain from the Singapore government that they themselves filed as legitimate numbers. So either they've committed some sort of regulatory infraction and are admitting it, or they are questioning their own numbers simply to save face because they assume people are too lazy to check it out, or their diehard fans or investors are going to look at that and say, "Oh, okay, they've got it covered." It's definitely the type of move you make when you clearly are scrambling from a perception perspective rather than they didn't come out with any new information. They said they wanted to invest $1 billion in the US market. That's great. There's no actual plan to do that. It's just PR spin and damage control. That's really what it is, in my opinion.
Now, one thing I did find, another part I should say I found interesting about this whole story as it has developed, is that Chartres Sityodtong has now admitted that this will delay their heavily anticipated U.S. debut. So this is going to delay their movement into the United States and whatever regulatory hurdles that would entail. But also, just curious, man, if you have any knowledge about the video game that they are trying to put out for PlayStation 5. Like, my initial thought was, if this is real, which apparently all signs point to this being a real thing, do you think this has anything to do with the extra investor capital that maybe whatever deals they work as far as distribution is concerned, or any high anticipation for this game? Is this a reason to have any sort of renewed interest in one championship from an investor standpoint?
I mean, they probably are selling it that way to investors, but in terms of what kind of revenue that would bring in, it's not going to cover any of the losses they're talking about, unless this is a world shattering game that gamers that don't even follow martial arts say is so good that everyone has to get. Unless it's some kind of earth shattering game, I don't see that happening. And even then, if you look at a lot of game developers, look at Microsoft and the Xbox, it took them years to ever reap a profit on that. And yes, Bungie and certain studios for bigger games like Halos, things like that, they got more of a profit up front. But even then, I don't see it. I think it's more of, one is trying to build this universe, right? That's something that Chatri's talked about now for a couple of years, where he wants real life superheroes. He wants to branch out into movies. He wants to branch out into video games. They have esports now. They have an entertainment company that's supposedly going to do TV shows. They have the martial arts. That he's trying to sell this as a giant, weird universe, almost in like a Disneyland sort of way, almost like a Disney. Like, hey, you've got Disney, sure, but then you have Marvel, then you have the classic, Mickey, Minnie Mouse, all of that. Then you have the other brands under Disney, where there's Disney Channel. He's trying to pitch that to investors. It's very clear, in my opinion, based on the financial statements, based on the amount of marketing they spend, especially, and based on what he said in PR, getting Demetrius Johnson to be a one esports ambassador. All of this is to build this larger than life brand he's hoping to sell people on. That's his whole dream. So whether they're buying into it for the martial arts aspect, whether they're buying into it because they believe in that vision and they think, oh, the video game is a step forward on the path to that, maybe that's true. But to me, again, it's this surface level perception of look at everything I'm producing. Look at all of this. Here are all of our departments. We're building this new Disneyland. And if you dig deep enough, which is not that hard, it certainly doesn't look great to the outside perspective.
Yeah, so I definitely know that you in particular will be keeping your eye on this. I will as well, of course, not with the same educated eyes as someone with as many initials on your name has. So I'll try my best.
I got a couple extra initials. I could just throw them your way. You know,
I don't.
Yeah, sure.
All right, thank you.